to some live coding with me, Matt Groves. I'm back after a, let's say, stressful week. A little bit of dental work, a little bit of minor dental surgery, and some suffering. Mostly me just being a big baby, but I'm back and I'm feeling great and I'm ready to go. Some live coding. This is episode 49. I'm titling it Visual Studio Worker Template ASP.NET because I think that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time today. But really, this is an episode I'm going to respond to a few questions from the developer community. And if you are in the chat room, always feel free to drop your questions because this is the motto. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So ask away. Please ask your questions. No matter how how stupid you might think they are, I don't think they are. So don't be afraid to ask them. It's a safe place to ask questions. I'm not going to make fun of you. No one else is going to make fun of you here in the chat. So if you're just getting started, you have a really simple question. I don't care what it is. Hopefully it's coding related, but any question you feel like asking, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Or if you're just hanging out with us, if you're just lurking in the chat room, just drop a little hi, just drop a little wave in there, just so I know you're out there. All right, some quick plugs before we get started. We're looking at Team Live Coders. This is twitch.tv/team/live coders. This is my coding team, the Live Coders. And there we are, just refresh to see there's only 3 of us streaming right now. Of course, C# Fritz is kind of the team leader, and he's got a pretty big following. So he's, probably most of you if you're watching this on YouTube, you're probably watching Fritz live right now, which I don't blame you. That's totally fine. He's doing some cool stuff with C# and stuff like that. So if he's still on later, we might raid him, or we might go and raid Copper Beardy. We'll see what's going on. At the end of the stream, hour and a half, 2 hours, we'll see. We'll raid one of these people. What else? We're plugging Awesome Developer Streaming. This is a GitHub repo with just a big text file with a bunch of people who stream. Not necessarily just the Twitch live coders, but people all over. Different teams, different platforms, different topics. Mostly coding and developer related, or technology or making related, engineering related. So you can do a Control F here, GitHub/BNB/awesome developer streams. Look for a topic or a person of your choice, and so you can find me with a Control F there. And I stream mostly about backend stuff, so databases and ASP.NET and Couchbase, NoSQL, SQL, and kind of stuff like that. I probably need to update this because I haven't done a soldering episode in a while. I've got some kits right over there, and I've got some more kits on my wish list, but I just really haven't had time to sit down and do it. And VR these days for me is mostly Beat Saber, trying to get a little exercise in. Not terribly interesting to watch. And podcasting, I do this mostly on Calvin Allen's stream. That'll be Wednesday. Doing some, we'll record the podcast, but we'll broadcast that recording process live on Twitch. And I have a podcast of my own. I've been neglecting it a lot. So I may get back to that at some point. But kind of live streaming is kind of taking the place of podcasting for me as a way to communicate and get stuff out there. So this is kind of like a podcast, but it's a video podcast, I guess. And it's all done live, no editing. Might have some guests on soon. So if you're interested in seeing some guests on, I can find some people within Couchbase or others in the developer community. Come on and guest, do some pair coding, some interviewing, that kind of stuff. Might be fun. Interviews might be fun in general. All right. So what's next? We've got, I guess, upcoming events. Oh, yeah. bit.ly/GrovesTube. So if you're on YouTube, you already know how to find me, but you can see the bottom of the screen over there. bit.ly/GrovesTube. This will take you to all my old recordings of this and everything else I put on YouTube. You can go check out old episodes there. And, of course, you can speed those up, and you can fast forward and rewind and all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely check those out. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment there. I'm happy to answer your questions on YouTube comments. Hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button, all that kind of stuff if you want to, if you're enjoying it. But definitely comments, interaction, questions. That's what I appreciate the most. So drop those in there, and I'll be sure to mention those on the next live stream. Okay, and the next thing I think is events. Oh yes, TwitchBot is back on. I got it working again. So if you just you can type in help to see all the different commands. If I do a current project here, you'll see it's linking to the first thing we're going to tackle today, which is a forum question. But you can definitely hit the bang help to get a list of commands, and there's different stuff you can do there. I think I have a little bit more work to do. So one of the problems I had with the Twitch bot deployment was I messed up something with Kubernetes or AKS. I think it was a billing issue that kind of screwed things up, and I couldn't really get it to recover because I only partially know what I'm doing. But one of the things I realized I need, Vigo Studio, hello Vigo Studio, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping in, saying hi, appreciate it. One of the things I need to do is I need to figure out how to back up my data in Kubernetes, because if that cluster goes kerplooey, I don't really have a backup. Now, fortunately, there's only a few episodes worth of chat data, and I have an old backup from when I used to host this on my desktop, so not all is lost, but some is lost. Need to figure out a good backup process. And actually, I think the next version of the Couchbase operator will have some backup stuff built in, so it'll kind of do that work for us. But we're not on 2.0 yet; it's not released yet, so we'll get there. All right, what else? TwitchBot is on. Pluralsight course. I think I mentioned this before. Is Pluralsight. This is not one of my courses. I'm a Pluralsight author, but if you're interested in learning more about Couchbase, specifically about the querying and the filtering, there's a new course on Couchbase by, probably saying his name wrong, Kishan Iyer. And this is a relatively short course, 3 hours, 15 minutes, about nickel querying. It goes deep into nested structures and collections, some cool stuff there. So if you have Pluralsight or you're interested in checking out Pluralsight, this is a course I'd recommend you check out. And I'll be having working on some Pluralsight courses soon. Can you paste the link? Oh yes, I can do that. Sorry. I'll paste the link right here. Let me make sure this works, because I might be logged in already. So let me see if this works. Public link. Yep, there we go. There you go, Vigo. There is the link. Definitely check that one out. It's a great course. Let me know what you think. If you take that course, let me know. It'd be awesome. And I'm working on some stuff with Pluralsight, got in the works. It'll be a while before you see anything. It'll probably be Couchbase related, but I can't say for sure yet. We haven't really hammered those details out. But I'll be plugging my own Pluralsight stuff here soon, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. All right, what else we got? Upcoming events, yes. Okay, so I've got tabs already open for this. So I'm going to be at some events soon. So if you're going to these events, or if you're in the area, these might be fun events for you to attend. Nexus is, well, actually, the next one coming up is SQL Saturday in Cleveland, Ohio, February 1st. Whoops, sorry. This is a one-day event on a Saturday. It's a SQL Saturday event. So this is put on by PASS. Generally speaking, this is SQL Server people, SQL Server users, developers, etc. However, they've been nice enough to accept my session. Let's see if I can find it here, which is about SQL, the language, not about SQL Server, the product. So I think this is going to have some appeal. We'll see how it goes here. We'll see if they chase me out, slash my tires, because I'll be talking about NoSQL, but I'll be talking about SQL with NoSQL. So it's going to be fun. We'll see how this goes. But anyway, if you're interested in data, SQL Server, SQL as a language, all these kinds of things, and you're in the Cleveland area or close by, you can check out SQL Saturday. I'll post a link here as well if you want to check that out. You can go to that. Next one after that will be Dev Nexus. Actually, let me think about this. I got these out of order. The next one I'll be at is Developer Week, and this is in the San Francisco Bay Area. Vigo Studio, there are SQL Saturdays all over the country. So if you go to SQLSaturday.com, you can probably find one which is in driving distance of you. Now, I say all over the country. You may not be in the United States. I don't know if they have those outside of the United States. You're from India. I don't know. They might have them there. I figure SQL Server. A few people in India are probably using SQL Server, right? So they may have them there. I don't know for sure. Developer Week. This is also not in India. This is in the San Francisco Bay Area. I believe this is at, I want to say the venue is Oakland or something. I'll post a link to that one right here. Let's see, conference. Let's see. I got to figure out where this is. I'll be going here. I'll probably be at the expo here, is my guess, 13th and 14th. Let's see. venue. Here we go. This is going to be the Oakland Convention Center. And so I'll be there probably February 13th and 14th is my guess. I haven't actually booked travel yet. I need to get on to that. But this will be my first time at Developer Week. This is a week of developer stuff. Looks like there's a hackathon. We got some hiring, people doing hiring, some workshops, some breakout sessions, expo, which is where I'm going to spend most of my time. A lot of sponsors and technology companies, people showing off stuff they're doing. So if you're in the area, in the Bay Area or close by, definitely go to check out developerweek.com, and that'll be a fun event for you. The next one, this is the last one I'll plug, is Dev Nexus. I have been to this event before, but it's been a couple years since I've been here. Sadly, this is a really good event. This is a large community-driven event, and it's mostly around the Java world, but it's not exclusively Java because they do let me in. I'm not much of a Java developer. This is in Atlanta. And I believe they have moved it back to the, what's that place called? Let's see, conference info. It's called, yes, the Georgia World Congress. I was thinking of the word Congress in my head. This is a really interesting venue, but check it out there. This is a really large conference, and I think it's a pretty good deal. So I think you can still buy a ticket. Yeah, a very low-cost conference for the type of content and size and quality you're going to get there. So check it out, devnexus.com. I will again be at the one of the sponsors. Couchbase will be sponsoring. I'll be at the booth there. So if you're at DevNexus, come say hi to me. I will be there. Definitely check that out. All right. Today, as I said at the top, I'm going to be spending most of the time probably on this worker template stuff. That's my plan. We'll see how that goes. But I want to start with another question that's coming from the developer community. And by developer community, in this case, I mean the Couchbase forums. So I'm a Couchbase employee and a developer advocate. And one of the things I try to do is I get into the forums and try to help out as best I can. People have questions, reporting bugs. They have, maybe they're giving us some sort of indirect feedback. I like to be in there and really get to know people who are using Couchbase. Oh, you work at Oracle. Oh, okay. Vigo. So you're also a database, work for a database company, although Oracle is a lot more than just a database company these days. So is Couchbase for that matter, but we're much, much smaller than Oracle. But yes, so I'd like to get in the forums here, and this is a question that came in. I spend a lot of time in the .NET forums specifically. I'm a .NET developer, and this is where I can, I think, be most helpful. Hey, it's Kevin Griffin. What's going on? One Kev Griff. Definitely check out one Kev Griff. He is a fellow team member and also does some streaming on Twitch. Definitely check out his channel. Thanks for stopping in, Kevin. So anyway, this person has posted a snippet here. Vigo, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Appreciate that follow. Oh, one of the things I didn't mention is it's kind of still in the works is I'm thinking about giveaways, ideas. So I'll give away a conference ticket or a Pluralsight sub or some books or something like that, some sort of prize. And for anyone who subscribes to my channel, some of the revenue from that subscription comes to my Twitch account. I don't plan to keep any of that money for myself, so that's all going to go towards prizes, things like that. So if you are interested in contributing to that and subscribing, supporting the channel, hit that subscribe button, and we're going to add some money. Invite me to the conferences. What do you mean invite you to the conferences? I definitely invite you to all those conferences, but if you mean give you a conference ticket for those conferences, I don't know if I have enough money to cover any of those. Sequel Saturday, I could probably cover that one, no problem. Travel, you have to get there on your own. But anyway, just saying, if you're interested in subscribing, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it. And you'll be supporting the channel, which I appreciate, but you'll also be contributing towards whatever I land on for a giveaway idea here. And the giveaway will probably be related to the chatbot activity. So if you are lurking in the channel, just say hi. That's going to increase your chances of getting a prize somewhere down the road. I haven't got any specifics worked out yet. So anyway, back to what I was doing here. Okay, so this person started this forum question. They've posted this little code snippet, and they're getting an exception. And I don't want to throw this person under the bus, but when you're saying you're getting an exception and you post a code snippet, it's very helpful if you say what the exception is and maybe the line of code that causes the exception. Now, being a .NET developer and looking at this code, I'm saying, oh, this is probably a null reference exception somewhere, is what I'm expecting. So this is my next question, right? And okay, so then null reference exception is the answer, of course. So we need more details. I suggested attach a debugger and see, because there's this line here, which is a bunch of dots together. Every one of those dots could be a null reference exception. All right, so I asked for some more details, and we got some more details. And so what he's doing, if you look at this code here, it looks like he's building some sort of desktop app or a mobile app or something, because you can tell actually down here, button 1, click, which tells me this is WPF or WinForms or maybe a Xamarin or something like that, something along those lines. That's connecting to Couchbase cluster, and it's trying to, based on some information you're typing, in this case he's hard-coded it, but he's trying to find a Couchbase user. Now, Couchbase is a database, right? So you could store data about users, but in Couchbase you can also have a number of users that basically have credentials for Couchbase, right? Similar to other databases. So if we go into my instance of Couchbase here, and I'll log in with the administrator user, which is a special kind of user. We'll cover this in a second. But if you go to security here, you'll see I've got a list of different users. In this case, I've got 4 users. And you don't see the administrator in here because it's, again, it's got special status. But these 4 users I've created here. So what he's trying to do, or she, I have no idea, is trying to do is use this API, so get a cluster manager object from .NET, and then use this getUser method to find a local. These are called local users because they're stored inside Couchbase. There's other types of users that could be stored in like an LDAP directory, for instance. Anyway, trying to find a user with the username of auditor and then returning that value. So this result contains some things like success, exception, the actual user, etc., getting the value. And then we're getting a null reference exception here because the user is null. So what's happening is he's trying to get a username auditor, and the UI or the API is basically saying, I can't find that user. And he's saying, I created the user called auditor. It does exist, right? The user auditor does exist, and is also logged in with this authenticate. Okay, and he's also added test user via the web UI, and tried to do this and getting a null error. He should be an admin to do that. Well, that's a possibility, Vigo. So what I'm trying to do is dig into this a little more and try to figure out what circumstances might cause this error. Because I suspected that it might be a casing issue, that auditor doesn't exist. I also suspect the auditor might be the name of his admin user, but this down here tells me that's probably not the case. So I just kind of need to go walk through it and figure out what the circumstances that might cause this to happen, and try to ask for more information or provide some sort of solution. So we're going to try a few of those things today. So I'm going to basically just copy, I'm going to copy a bit of this code here into a console application I have open already for another form question that I was working on. So, and actually I created a bug for this one. But all right. So this is my code, and this is my administrator account that has a password, which is terrible. Yes, C# Visual Studio, that's right, C#. We're working at .NET. This is a .NET question, or a question of the .NET forums in Couchbase. And I've got a bucket name called bucket name here. Now, what did he call his bucket name? It doesn't matter because we're not using a bucket. So I'm going to get rid of the bucket stuff. We're actually just using the cluster. The bucket's where the actual data is stored. We're not even looking at the data yet. We're looking at some of the user information stored in Couchbase. So he's got a user named auditor. So I'm going to go and create a user also called auditor and give it the password of password. And let's go to full admin. Now see there's Couchbase and external, this is what I meant when I said local, and then it might be called external in the API, but I could connect to LDAP, for instance. I'm not doing that in this case, and neither is he, so we're just going to stick with auditor. Okay, now what he's saying is that the user equals null. So I'm going to say if user equals null, then we're going to console.writeLine, user is null. Else, what language do you usually write with there, Vigo? User is not null. Okay, so go ahead and run this console app here. And we'll see what happens. So this says user is not null. So you're using Java and you're currently learning Go. Oh, very interesting. I've done a little bit of Java. I can read it. I can write a little bit of it. Not great at it. Don't know anything about Go. I have been getting into some PHP again this year. I used to write PHP years and years ago, like a lot of PHP, and I've just neglected it for a while. I'm trying to get back into it. You know, going to maybe some PHP conferences this year. So you know, I have a friend who is really got me into looking at Laravel as a framework. I used to do some Cake PHP back in the day. So I've been doing some Pluralsight stuff with Laravel to kind of get back in the hang of things. And honestly, it's based on what I've seen with Laravel, it's not too far from my normal C# type stuff. You know, some things that are very different, but it's a very comfortable fit for me. Very similar to ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET Web API, ASP.NET Core, that sort of thing. Anywho, so anyone else lurking in the channel, let me know. What languages are you using, and what languages are you currently checking out? And leave a YouTube comment as well. My kids watch YouTube, and they're always saying stuff like, leave a comment with your favorite programming language. So do that. We'll see. It'll be fun. All right, anywho. So this seems to be working as I'd expect it to. Now, if I go ahead and say administrator here, this is probably going to return null. And it does, because you can't get the administrator user, which is a user with special status. You can't get that using this API. So I'm really confused by this. Try lowercase. Yeah, and I know it's case sensitive. I think I already suggested this actually in the forum. Yeah, it is case sensitive. So I did suggest that already, and I'll just show you that. So auditor with a capital A will work. Auditor with a lowercase a, this will say user is null. I don't know if you can really read that. Let me get zoom in going here. User is null, right? So that's what I expect it to be. So, but Vigo, you had an interesting question about what if I'm not logged in as administrator? If I'm logged in as auditor, which, so right now auditor has full admin access. So it's the equivalent of administrator, but doesn't have the same special status. So let's try that and see what happens. Okay, so it found it. User is not null. So let's change some of the credentials here of auditor. And let's just give it like, I don't know, just like read access to the travel sample bucket. So like a really, really bare bones set of permissions. And let's see what happens when I try to run this here. Okay, so in this case, user is null. But what I'm guessing is if we look at, let's just attach a debugger here. And let's see what the result says. So the result says success is false. Right? So that's an indication to me, it's not throwing an exception, to me that whatever user he's logged in as does not have permission to get users. So what would that permission be? Security admin, perhaps? Or maybe read-only admin. Let's see if read-only admin is enough. And you know, the documentation for this might be something we look at, or it might be lacking. Let's find out here. Okay. So it looks like security or like read-only admin helps. What about like analytics reader? I'm not going to go through all of these. So user is null. Okay. So that's what I suspect is going on, is that the user he's logging in as, up here with authenticate, does not have permission to get user. And so, did I try read-only admin? Was that the one I did before? User is not null. Okay. So I'm suspecting the user needs to have at least read-only admin access. Let's try security admin in order for this to work. Oh, user is null. Okay. So it looks like security admin doesn't even do it. Can view all. This will show you a little bit if I zoom in here. Can view all cluster. Hang on. Can view all cluster statistics and manage user roles, but not grant full admin or security admin roles to other users. This user can access the web console. This user cannot read data. Interesting. So I wonder if. Okay. Cluster admin can manage all cluster features except security. This user can access web console. This user cannot read data. Full admin can manage all cluster features, including security. Can read some data. Okay, interesting. So let's see cluster admin. Whoops, I'll zoom out of this. I want to do cluster admin. I'm going to have to see if the documentation has anything. So user is null. But it seems like read-only admin is allowed to. Yep. And certainly full admin is allowed to. Full admin checks everything. But that appears to be it. So that's my guess. Now, I found that empirically. This complicated security mechanism is bound to be confusing to set up, says the Oracle developer. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, confusing, I guess. Maybe we could look at the documentation to see if there's anything about this. So we can look at permissions, maybe, and we can see like was it cluster admin? See if there's any information in the documentation about this. Let's see. RBAC roles, maybe. I guess we get a list of roles. Here's the REST API that can get roles. Oh, okay. Here's just a list of roles. Roles and this is a pre-release version. That's fine. So commonly used roles. Yep. Okay. So this kind of breaks down what's going on here. Security. So, doesn't really seem to match what I've been discovering here, but I think that's got to be a role-based issue. Yes. Okay. I'm just wondering if there's any documentation on get user. I don't know if I can get to it from here. Security admin includes read-only permissions. Oh, well, if I go here and I check this, it checks everything, right? You see everything's sort of grayed out. So full admin basically means you can do everything and anything, right? So yeah, it includes read-only, but it also includes, cluster admin and read-write access and all that kind of stuff. So. Yeah, so that is what I expect the issue is there. And he says that the user is, where is it? The user auditor exists and also logged in with cluster authenticate. Okay. So I'm going to make a little reply here, enlightened. It appears that get user will only work if the credentials you are using to connect to the cluster has access to get RBAC users. what roles, permissions have you given the auditor account? Also, instead of a null, instead of waiting for a null reference exception, let me just calculate that. You can check user result dot success and show an error message instead. I'll just say maybe, by the way, this is kind of unrelated to his real question here, or her real question here. Okay. Yep. I think that's probably enough to go on. Okay, so that's that. So we've handled that form question there. Okay. Let's go on to our next topic. So I'm going to close down this solution here. The next question, or comment, I guess, this came in after my last blog post. Well, I think it's my last blog post about creating ASP.NET Core microservices with Docker Compose and to be able to do microservice development locally. Now, I've got a post that I promise you I'm going to publish today, later today. It could be 11:59 p.m., but I will publish it later today about actually deploying the microservice to Kubernetes, in my case AKS, by writing some YAML files and also using a operator to follow the operator pattern for your databases. So that blog post will be coming very soon. However, after that blog post, I got this feedback via Twitter. Google Cloud, so I'm using AKS, that's Azure Kubernetes Service. What I go through, there's some AKS specific things, but for the most part, you could apply the same thing to GKE, what do they call it? Google Cloud something? Google Kubernetes, whatever it's called. Yeah, you could deploy to there. It could probably also work with Oracle, OCI, I believe, and AKS, with a few minor tweaks. You just streamed yesterday deploying your app to GKE. Very cool. So I'm going to shout you out then, Vigo Studio, because I can. Check out Vigo Studio's Twitch stream, and you can maybe see his recording on deploying his app to GKE. Very cool. I assume that was a Java app, or maybe it was a Go app because you're working on Go. Definitely check that out. I'm more of a .NET Microsoft guy, so AKS is kind of my go-to. Plus, I'm a Microsoft MVP, so they give me a little bit of free Azure money to play around with, so that makes it a little bit easier on the wallet to play around with AKS. Certainly, Minikube could also work as well. Not for production, but yeah, the free credits are really helping me with that. And actually, the chatbot right now is running on AKS. So I'm using that as a production deployment, I guess you'd call it, for my Twitch chatbot. Just need to figure out a way to automate or at least make the backup of the data a little easier. Anywho, so this is a comment that came in on Twitter about my ASP.NET Core microservice blog post. My ASP.NET Core app was extremely simple. It was basically just a single action that wrote some data to a database and then fetched that data right back out and displayed it to a web page. So what this person said is he'd like to see if I could do one that shows some neat ways of using the worker template, which I assume is a Visual Studio template, like maybe a web queue worker scenario using Couchbase. And he says, or something. Of course, when it comes to databases, I'm generally going to go with Couchbase as my go-to. That's what I work with all the time. Actually, one of the other things I've got in my backlog is I've been recently looking at the Talend Big Data, Talend Open Studio for big data. We might look at that in the future. This is a way to move data around from place to place. It's a pretty cool orchestration tool. And I just did this yesterday, some really, really basic moving data from SQL Server to Couchbase Server. I'm thinking about expanding on that, doing it on the stream here, showing off Talend, maybe multiple source of data to Couchbase, because that's kind of one of the reasons you might want to use a NoSQL database, is to ingest from lots of different schemas. I'm also curious about the process of doing an ongoing data sort of synchronization or a one-time like migration, and sort of seeing the different approaches that Talend might take to that. So, and maybe that even goes into my automated backup of TwitchBot data. We'll see. Anywho, that's in the future. So I wanted today use the rest of the time in my stream, we'll see how long it goes, to check out what the worker template is, try to understand what is meant by WebQ worker, and how Couchbase, excuse me, how Couchbase might figure into that. So we're going to do that. So let's just start with Visual Studio here. I'm going to say File, New Project, and let's see what happens here. Is there like a worker template? So we've got a worker service. Is this what he said? Worker service? He said worker template. I assume this is the same thing. So we've got container application for Kubernetes. So that's interesting. But anyway, worker service, a project template for creating a worker service using .NET Core. So this is a whole template for worker service. And I don't know, let's see if this is it. Let's see what happens. So let's just try worker service test. And I like to put these in zproj. And we'll create this and see what happens. Okay, empty project, worker service, Docker support. Yeah, of course, because we're going to deploy this to AKS, I assume. Not that I would necessarily do that today, but we may as well add Docker support while we're here. And .NET Core 3.1, that seems fine to me. Okay, so there we go. Let's see what this is. So this looks like a console program. Okay, and add hosted service and worker service. Okay. So this is a background service. So I have done some, my TwitchBot actually is using a background service as we speak. So I've done something similar to this. I just didn't use the actual template for it. Let me see if I can actually, let's open that up in Visual Studio and open up the TwitchBot. And I'll kind of show you this. So we've kind of already done this background service thing. But it's running in an ASP.NET Core application, actually. So it's just its own standalone console app. I've got some ASP.NET in there. And that's because I wanted to give it a front end. So you can't really see this right now because, I lost some data. But let's just do this. So if I go to in OBS here and I hit refresh cache, you're going to see a little pop-up there. See? So that is coming from ASP.NET. And I've got some SignalR in there and cool stuff like that. But if you look at TwitchBot Core, I've got this hosted service right here called Matt's Chatbot hosted service that inherits from iHosted service. If I go back to this, oh, it's actually background service. It's a little different. Why create a bot? For learning? Well, yes, mainly Vigo. It's kind of a live coder's kind of rite of passage, it seems, is to write a chatbot. Everyone's doing it, right? And I specifically wrote one because I wanted to involve Couchbase. No one had written a chatbot that involves Couchbase. I'm doing a lot of back-end, a lot of data stuff, so mine involves some Couchbase. That's definitely part of it. And, just because it's a rite of passage for live coders to write a bot. Yeah, there's lots of other bots out there I could just use, but what's the fun in that, right? This is a programming stream. You'll have to write one too. Of course. We need yet another chatbot out there. But yeah, you could write one in Go, for instance. See how that works. Yes. So anyway, mine was hosted service. It's not background service, but it's kind of the same idea here. Okay, and this does implement, as you can see here. Zoom in. This implements iHosted service. Its name is Yet Another Chatbot. I'm sure that name's already been taken. Vico, but yeah, it'll be Yet Another Chatbot. It'll be yet another Chatbot. I called mine, as you can see, very creatively. I called mine Matt's Chatbot. Very exciting. And mine is on GitHub as well. In fact, since we're no longer on that project, let's change the current project to my chatbot. You can find it at GitHub/mgroves, but here's Matt's Twitchbot. Just post that there. And there you go. So it's really meta because the Twitchbot is now storing a link to its own source code in the database. Anywho, so yeah, it's a variation of that. This is a background service, which program is just going to, just says services.add hosted service. In my case, that's all I really did. If you go to the web here, and I go to startup, you can see I've done pretty much the exact same thing somewhere. Where did I put it? So transient singleton. Oh, I think actually, yeah, all I did was I said services.add singleton. And if you do this, I think that's right. Yeah, if you just add an iHosted service to this services container, it automatically will start hosting it. So I don't even have to go the extra step of saying services, because that's services.add hosted service. I could probably do the exact same thing here and just say services.add, although that might not work because it's technically, yeah, I could just do this too, I guess. I don't know what the difference is between these, singleton and add hosted service, if there is a difference. That might be something I make a note of, and I will follow up with my person and say, what's the difference here? And I will also point this person to my chatbot and say, well, I kind of did that already. I didn't use the template, but I did that already with my Twitchbot, and I've already got it deployed to AKS. And so I have done something a little more interesting than the plain ASP.NET Core sample application, but I've just done it for Twitch itself. So interesting to see his feedback on that. If you're watching, by the way, my friend, I don't want to out you because this was a DM this person sent me. Yes. Okay, so I have used, I've not used the worker template, but it's good to know that's in there. Not you, Vigo. I don't think you're the one that asked this question on Twitter. But I have not used the template, but I have used a hosted service. So, yes. It's very cool. Now, the other part of the question was web queue worker scenario using Couchbase or something. That's kind of what I'm doing. It's not a queue worker, I guess, but certainly another thing I've done in the past is if you go back to watch my streams on bit.ly/GrovesTube, I have used something called Hangfire in the past, which this would be, I don't know if I need to use a background worker, probably. But Hangfire is something that can parse messages from a queue and process them. And so this worker template is a way you could just get up and running really quickly with Hangfire and just drop the Hangfire code in here. It's a few lines of code to start processing, and so therefore you build an image with this, a Docker image, and then you can now scale out your worker processing super easy. So yeah, I think I see where my friend was going with this. I don't know if it really warrants a whole follow-up blog post or not. Maybe. We'll see. So that went really quickly. So yeah, definitely check it out. Worker template, ASP.NET, or sorry, Visual Studio. Check out the worker template. Very cool. So I'm going to close that one down and close out this Visual Studio here. Well, that's really all I had on the books for today. So let me switch over to Twitter here. Let's see what's going on. I got Calvin saying he wants to join, but Twitch is blocked at his job. Oh no, that's weak. Oh, oh yeah, this is a good one. Speaking of Hangfire, I got another event I can promote. So if you go here to JetBrains, I will be presenting a webinar on background tasks without a separate service, Hangfire for ASP.NET. So my perspective with this session is you can add background processing to your existing ASP.NET without having to fire up a separate service. Now, if you're deploying to Kubernetes, you're probably doing so for ease of scaling reasons, and therefore you're probably okay with separate services because that's going to make it easier for you to scale out or scale down if you need to. The good thing is with Hangfire, you can do both. You can just have a simple built-in background processing with Hangfire and ASP.NET, and you can also very easily switch it to scale it up, multiple pods running on Kubernetes cluster, multiple clusters, whatever, different data centers. You can do all that with Hangfire. It's very easy to go from one to the other. So it's very easy to go from 0 to Hangfire, and then it's easy to go from Hangfire to multiple processes. But most of this session is talking about just a really basic getting started with Hangfire and background tasks in ASP.NET Core. So this is a pretty fun session. I've given this one at conferences before. I'll be giving it JetBrains webinar. So definitely check this out. Did I put a link to it? Yes, I did. So JetBrains looks like, how can you find this? If we go to jetbrains.com, definitely check out JetBrains. One of the things I probably want to do for this session, maybe I'll do that the rest of today, is get up and running with Rider. So anyway, see if there's any sort of events on the homepage here. Doesn't look like it. So anyway, they're promoting us on Twitter, so you can register for this. It doesn't cost anything. It is 4 to 5 Central Europe time. I think that's what CET means, which is 10 to 11 Eastern U.S. time. That's my time. And I think that's a pretty good time for most time zones, unless you're in the far east of Asia. I think that's an okay time. It's sort of the end of the day for most of Europe, and a little later for Middle East, and then it gets into personal time probably farther east than that. A little early for the west coast of the United States, but not too bad. Anyway, doesn't matter. If you're interested in that, you can check it out here. You can register, and I believe they probably also have a recording for you, although I'm not 100% sure about that. So definitely check that out. JetBrains webinar. So speaking of which, why don't we take a little bit of time here and get going, see if I can get Rider set up here. I've used Rider before, a long time ago when it was called Project Rider. I was interested in editing and working with a full-featured IDE, JetBrains IDE on Linux. So I tried it out there, and I don't think I've actually tried it on Windows yet, believe it or not. And I believe I have an account. Let's see. Curious if I have there's a tool to download this. Right from my existing JetBrains stuff. Like a JetBrains install tool, but okay. There's a free 30-day trial with it, for sure. So I'm just going to download that. This is JetBrains Rider 2019 version 2019 dot. I can't see it. It's cut off part of the file name. 2019.3.1. So I'm downloading. So if you're not familiar with Rider, this is a cross-platform .NET, I guess you could describe it as, IDE. And it's kind of built with a combination of JetBrains, of course, well-known IntelliJ, Vigo. Since you're a Java dev, you've probably heard of IntelliJ. And it's also a combination of IntelliJ with their .NET refactoring tool called ReSharper. And I believe they're kind of a mashup of those two into one product. I think there's a little more to it than that, but that's kind of how I think it is. You use IntelliJ Ultimate on Arch Linux. All right. So this is kind of the best of IntelliJ with C# and .NET. Okay, creates desktop shortcut. Sure, why not? Update path. I'm going to pass on that. I'm not going to associate with these because I have Visual Studio installed here. So anyway, this is, I guess you can kind of think of it as an alternative to Visual Studio, but except that it's cross-platform, right? So this can run on Linux, it can run on Mac, I assume. I've only tried it on Linux a long time ago. But it's cross-platform. It has all the ReSharper goodness you'd expect. And so, normally I use Visual Studio, but I haven't used Rider in a while, so it's worth checking out. I believe they give me a free license for being an MVP, I think. If not, there's a 30-day trial. Definitely check it out. And yeah. We'll just go through here, see if I can't get some of my sample code that I already have to work on ReSharper or on Rider. And then, since it's a JetBrains webinar, why not use a JetBrains product during the webinar? I think it's only fair. So they were nice enough to invite me on. I do use ReSharper on Visual Studio. One of my favorite extensions. I'm using that for such a long time. It's just kind of like second nature to me. And it just feels weird when I first installed Visual Studio and I'm trying to code without ReSharper. And I'm just like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Even though Visual Studio keeps adding features that kind of borrow or are very similar to ReSharper features, ReSharper still keeps innovating, adding good stuff. And I really do like the ReSharper test runner. Probably one of my favorite things about ReSharper is the built-in test runner. I use the Visual Studio live coding for unit tests a lot, but the ReSharper test runner is still very useful and very helpful. Well, this is, Docker Desktop wants to update. Of course, we're going to do that later, not in the middle of the stream. Visual Studio is way more lightweight. So Visual Studio Code is probably what you're thinking of. That is definitely a lightweight. That's probably closer to a text editor than it is a full-featured IDE, although it has a very rich extension library. Yeah, Visual Studio is definitely a heavyweight piece of software. But VS Code is also cross-platform, and it's something I use Visual Studio Code mainly for blog post writing, like AsciiDoc, and other types of editing, like YAML files I've done on the stream before, things like that. I generally don't use that for my .NET C# dev. I'm using it for my PHP work. I'm doing my PHP stuff in Visual Studio Code, although I think if I have a license from JetBrains, I'm not sure if I do, I could use PHP Storm, which is a tool I've used in the past as well, from JetBrains, which is an IntelliJ version, I think, an IntelliJ version that's focused on PHP. Anywho, or maybe it's I don't know. I get them all mixed up. I'm seeing this lovely splash screen on my other monitor here. While streaming, IntelliJ can easily crash your system. Well, let's hope not. All right, because this is, Rider is, from what I can tell, some sort of version of IntelliJ. Okay, I definitely like the dark theme. Rider Dark, Visual Studio Dark, Darkula. Um, hmm. Based on these screenshots, I think I like Rider Dark, but I use Visual Studio Dark. It says very similar to Visual Studio. But from what I can tell, like you don't want hard black. Oh wait, actually, looking closer at this. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Visual Studio Dark. You don't want hard black. You want kind of a soft black, because like a literal black is just as hard on the eyes. Again, according to some blog post I read probably 8 years ago. Key maps, Visual Studio key map. That's what I usually select with ReSharper. So we'll go with that. Environment, .NET Core. That's all I really want. I'm not going to do any Xamarin stuff, at least not yet. I'll do that later if I want to. Default plugins, version control, yeah. Just database tools. I don't really need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. So this looks like a pretty good default. I'm probably not going to use the version control stuff, but may as well install it. Other tools, UML, YAML would be good, I guess. Featured plugins, Vim, no thanks. Python, no. Xamarin, TeamCity, nope. Don't need any of that. Okay. Start using JetBrains Rider. Okay, so I think I can log in here. Let's get my taking this off screen because I don't want you to see my password. We'll see if I have any sort of license I can activate. There it is. And all right, I do have one. Great. I can .cover and .trace plugins to it. That's also kind of cool. So you saw my username, but you didn't see my password. Okay, here we go. Tutorials. Yeah, I'm going to skip the tutorials, I think. Let's open a solution or project and see what I can find. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go to that folder. That's weird. Okay. It won't let me navigate to the folder. Okay, so now I want, let's see, I think hangfire, .couchbase, no. Where's my background task project at? Oh, you know what? I use, I don't use, I have a project that I use, I used to use a lot, called Best Pictures. This is a program that I wrote to help me organize and manage my collection of family pictures. It uses Couchbase as a database, of course, but also uses Hangfire to do processing in the background, to look for new files that have shown up, to send images to Azure, to look for faces and things like that. The Azure Cognitive Services, having in the background. It also compiles some numbers in the background, things like that, so that it's much more efficient for me to cycle through my pictures and do the manual parts. So it looks like it's opening it just fine. Let me just check my settings here. I don't think I have any passwords to really expose. Yeah. No big deal. Because I'm not actually deploying this. This is only a local deployment. Okay. So, initial thoughts on Rider. Because I haven't used this, like I said, probably a year or two since it was called Project Rider. Gosh, I don't know. So the JSON syntax highlighting isn't great. I'm not a big fan of that. Let's see how we're looking in the startup. So font size looks a little small. I can probably edit that. Or maybe I'm just getting too old. Let's see. Okay, so with Visual Studio, there's a little search box that helps you navigate. Vigo says Control plus plus. So I might be using different key bindings than you because that just says it wants to add it to Git. With Visual Studio, there's a little search box that helps you navigate the settings. I wonder if that can help you search the search the code. Let's see. Active editor. I mean, there's probably, I can just zoom like this. Is that going to apply every file? Yeah, it's not. Oh, so I want to do a setting that applies to the whole editor. Let's see, whoops. File settings, makes sense. And here's a little search I can do. Font. Yep, and we're going to, what's the font I use in Visual Studio? View, gosh, okay. Font. That's the little search box I'm talking about. Consolos 16 is what I use over here. So can I use Consolos and 16 over here? Oh, okay. It changed the font for the, that's not what I want. Gosh. Okay. Settings. What else? I want the font for the actual editor. Okay, here we go. Consolos. It already is Consolos 16. Oh. What is going on here? Editor font console 16. Oh, defining the color scheme. Interesting. Okay. 16. All right, that's a little better. Let me just compare and contrast these. It looks slightly different over here. I'm not quite sure why. But it's the same font, same size. All right, anyway. That's fine for now. I might want to make it bigger for a webinar, in fact. But you can see here, I'm not using a background task, but I am using somewhere here. Yeah, hangfire. So I'm saying services.add hangfire. So this is a different kind of background task. This is a stateful background task processor. So you can think of it kind of like a queue. I don't think it really calls itself a queue, but kind of like a queue. You can put items in it, and then they will be processed out in the background or in other processes if you want to. But my whole thesis here is the background of just the process you already have running. You don't need to deploy something separate if you don't want to. The way I've also got this is that I'm adding hangfire, but I'm using couch-based storage with it. So with hangfire, you can use a whole wide variety of different storage methods, databases. I think it comes with SQL Server connector, but there's a whole set of plugins for, MySQL and Postgres, and in my case, Couchbase and so on. So this isn't a great cluster for this, but I'll create a family photos bucket and family photos hangfire bucket. And it's probably a little small. But then I want to go to here. This is my actual folder where I keep my actual family images, and I don't want to use that. I want to use a smaller folder. I thought I had a sample folder somewhere. It's probably on my laptop, actually. So I'm going to need to create a new folder. Photos on my desktop. And I'm going to put that in here. And so you can see, oh, that was nice. So what I just did, let me just show you here. This is what, so I don't know if this is a writer thing or what, but this is the path I copied from Windows Explorer. I go in here, this JSON inside of a string, and I pasted it, and notice that it automatically escaped it for me. The double slash. So, like it, good. Okay, and I have a bucket, family photos, and family photos hang file. That's going to store my background task information. Good. And then these are my family members I've defined. So that's a application specific thing. If I wanted to add like our cat, for instance, I could add a different one here. But I only really care about categorizing photos if they have one or more of these people in them. The idea here is I have, 20,000 photos, whatever, and I don't know, based on the file names, who's in them or who's not in them, things like that. That escaping slash is magic. Does that happen in IntelliJ too? Is that just like a normal IntelliJ thing? Because that is very cool. I don't think that happens in Visual Studio. Let me go back over here and kind of do this. Oh wait, well, let me see. Maybe it does happen in Visual Studio. Yeah, so this, boom. Okay, happens in Visual Studio too. See, if I do a Control Z, it'll unescape it. So, and again, I'm using ReSharper. It might be a ReSharper thing for all I know. Anyway, very cool. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here with this because I want to just basically see if I can run this thing. So I'll make sure I have all the configuration. Family photos. I have no photos in that folder right now, so let's get some photos. Let's go to Creative Commons and just get a few photos. Start searching. Random people. Sure, commercial purposes, modify or adapt. Why not? Pictures of random people. I don't like this one. I like the old search portal. And we'll Google images for this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. That's a good start. Save as, and I'm going to actually get some family photos for this. Hit the download button on this. Let's do medium. Okay, desktop and photos. These are all just Flickr, I guess. Not a great photo. Not a flattering photo, I should say. Oh, I thought those were headphones. That's some sort of goggles. Oh, all right. Whatever. A couple people walking down the street. All right. So the idea here is my program is going to run in the background. It's going to look for photos in the folder that I give it. It's going to check that every minute or so for new files that aren't already indexed in the database. And that reminds me, there are some indexes I need to create. Where did I put those indexes at? Here they are. Create some database indexes for the queries to work. And I kind of want to move this over to use analytics instead. So I don't have to create all these indexes and worry about making efficient indexes. It's kind of a pain to do this, and these aren't even probably very good indexes because they're all, as you can see, tied to individual family member names. The excitement of creating indexes, now being streamed on Twitch. You may wonder why I have an index for Matt and one for Matthew, because my son's name is the same as mine. We're both Matthew Groves. But around here, I go as Matt and he goes as Matthew. That's our naming convention. What's the UI for Couchbase? This is just Couchbase's built-in web-based UI. So when you install Couchbase, you get this out of the box. This particular part of the UI is called the Query Workbench. Some of these, I think, yeah. These are just for efficient pulling of, because what this one of the things this program does, it'll pull images at random to help you go through and catalog them. So it's a lot of indexes for images, right? But that's why I kind of want to move those to analytics, so I don't have to worry about all these indexes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right. Okay, so I've got this up and running. How do I go? Just Control F5, is that going to do it? Let's see what happens. So, seems to be working. Control F5, license URL we deprecated. Okay, I don't know, that's some old stuff. Okay, so my chatbot is running on port 5000. Seems like this wants to run on port 5000. Why is that? I've got, oh. Yeah, address already in use. Is that because I've got, yeah. So we're going to do a different port. Let's say 5050. Okay. Try it again. Okay. Good. So these are broken because, just some weird edge cases I have. But it looks like everything's working. Got 4 recurring jobs in Hangfire. None of them have run yet. Process all is the one that runs every minute. That should run any second now. It says 2 servers. Probably because it's that one that I ran before kicked off Hangfire, even though the port number didn't work. So anywho, we'll wait for this to hopefully run a background job. Oh, there it goes. Processing. Oh, and looks like it succeeded. So there we go. So now I should have some data in family photos. I just have the one. Well, that's not right. There should be, because I have 4 photos in here, there should be 4 documents. You can see Hangfire has definitely gone about creating its documents. Okay, so why is this not working? Let's check out that background task. Whew. That's doing a lot of stuff in the background. Gosh. Hangfire's busy. Anywho, background core. So the services I'm looking at are where are my Hangfire services? Yes, photo process, process all. So again, I'm sort of using Rider here, and I'm looking for like a go-to. Yep, here we go. Declaration. Okay, so this should be getting path from the settings. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. It's recognizing this as SQL, but it says, hey, I don't recognize that SQL dialect. I don't suppose I don't have any installed. Oh wait, yeah, there are. But Couchbase is not one of them, or Nickel is not one of them. So that might be an interesting thing to consider doing. Anywho, I don't know what that involves. So should be finding anything of these type of files, which is JPEG is what I've got here. JPG files. Oh, I think I know what it is. It's probably because this process does not have any permission to that folder. I've run into this problem before. So I'm not sure what user this is running under. Probably M. Groves or Matthew Groves, right? Man, it is really hammering Couchbase. Hangfire is. Probably because I have the dashboard open. Maybe. I don't want it to be hammering it that much. There's a lot of activity. Actually, a little nervous. It's doing so much. Anywho, it's not finding those files. I'm guessing because of permissions issues. But it looks like they all have read permission. Let me just double check over here on OneDrive. See what I did for that. Oh, users. Let's see. If I give users permission to, I don't know, just give them everything. I don't care. It's my desktop. Let's see if that does the trick. And if it doesn't, even if it does, we're probably going to close up the stream here. So one of the cool things about, and you see it's decked onto one server because the other one's fallen off. One of the cool things with Hangfire is I can just go ahead and trigger it. It looks like this runs every hour. I'm sorry, not every minute, every hour. I'll go ahead and trigger that now and just kick that off. I don't have to wait 42 minutes for it to happen. I can just kick it off. One of the great things. All this UI you're seeing here with Hangfire, it's all built in. It's out of the box. I didn't make any of this dashboard stuff. All I did was just one little extension method, and bam, you get this whole UI. It's fantastic. Okay, it succeeded. And there we go. So it's a permissions issue. So you can see it found the images. So if I go back to the site, and there's still this weird bug I got to fix, but at this point I'll show these pictures, and I'll say, all right, I want to classify. It says which one of these has Matt in it, and none of these have Matt in it. Which one of these have Allie? None of them. None of these have my family in them. And it's reason this is broken because there's another document in here called ranking score, which should be excluded from my queries, but it's not. And this is yet another reason I should switch to analytics. But it's trying to parse this as a picture, and it's not. And so that's just a bug that I need to work on. None of these have Allie. And so the idea here is if I classify enough of these and keep going, I can say, okay, give me the best pictures of Allie, my wife, the best pictures of me, the best pictures of my son, best pictures of my daughter, the best pictures overall, the worst pictures overall. I might want to delete those pictures. Maybe they're blurry or something. I could all kinds of other reports and things like that. So this is a tool that I created to help me organize my photos. But it's a pretty good demo because it does some background processing. So I'm getting a cache. I'm creating a cache based on the overall score. So you can see at the bottom here, I've got a little bit of system output data that kind of shows me my progress in scoring these pictures. I've got a couple of methods that'll go hit Azure, and they'll say, give me all the photo information of this picture. Give me all the face data of this picture. And this is all cognitive services stuff. So it's hitting Azure in the background. Because these are REST calls. And I can send batches of photos to them, but it takes some time. I don't want to have to wait here in the UI for that processing to happen. So it happens in the background. Now, one thing I'm nervous about, seeing this log here, maybe I didn't see this in Visual Studio as clearly, is that Hangfire is hitting the database a lot. And I'm wondering why it's so chatty. I wonder if there's any way I could tweak that. But anyway, so there we go. So that was super easy. Rider up and running. I'm going to use this in my webinar with JetBrains. It's going to be great. So definitely come and check that out. And I'm going to put some better pictures in here than these rando people from Creative Commons, but just wanted to get something in there to get it to work. All right, I think that's it for today. We're going to go check to see if there's anybody hanging out that we can raid on the Live Coders team. It looks like Fritz has left, but a bunch of other people have joined. Copper Beardy was one who was there earlier. I don't want to raid someone who's just about to close up, so let's see if Copper Beardy is still doing some stuff. Code challenges from codinggame.com. Let's listen in.
I don't know if people recognize what the itty bitty bit of that bot is from. I don't know. You'd have.
Oh, okay. Looks like he's still going strong. So let's see. We could do full stack live. I think I rated him last time, Mr. Demon Wolf. Never rated Mr. Demon Wolf before. It looks like I don't have a huge audience. You want to join the team, Vigo Studio? Well, here's the information right down here. GitHub/livecoders/home. If you're doing live coding, there's a few things you have to be at least an affiliate to join, and you know you're not a brand, right? So we're not going to allow like Amazon or Visual Studio Streams or whatever to join this team. It's got to be a real person. Affiliate. So affiliate status, it takes a little bit of doing to get there, but you can totally do it. If I can do it, you can do it. That's the hardest one to overcome is the affiliate. Everything else, it's just a matter of being willing to do some coding. Oh, 2 weeks ago? Oh, yeah. You got time. You'll get there. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting affiliate status and then, you know, being willing to code on the stream and be willing to answer questions, interact with people, be welcoming and encouraging and all those sorts of things. And you can apply to the team. So definitely check out Live Coders team. Let's do a raid of Copper Beardy. I'm only seeing maybe one person, maybe Vigo in the stream. But if anybody else wants to join, I'll be over there in the raid for a little bit before I head off to lunch. Be nice to Copper Beardy. If you're a subscriber, make sure to hit that bada bing, bada boom emoji. And be nice to the host. And next time I'll be streaming is Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. That'll be my afternoon stream on Thursday. And if you have questions in the meantime, leave a comment there on YouTube. Ask me a question on Twitter. Wherever you can find me, ask me a question, and I will see you soon. All right. Bye now.